Good Friday morning, everybody. Welcome on into today's FreightWaves Now Community Update. I'm Kaylee Nix here with Mary O'Connell, and it's time to talk about one of the coolest communities that we have here at FreightWaves. It's running on ice time. Mary, thank you for being here.
Thank you guys so much. It's Friday, so it's going to be a good day. We're at the end of the week. We've made it. It's time to get that cup of piping hot coffee and see what's going on with the coolest community in freight.
We've made it to Friday. It's the last Friday of the month, which means that everybody is going to be posting on LinkedIn about time to get your final sales calls in to close out your month. And you know what? Good for them. Work through that weekend. You got this.
Exactly. I mean, it's all about that hustle, right?
There you go. All right. Let's talk about today's Running on Ice episode because you've got another good one in continuing to focus on, it feels like kind of a central theme of the show around emerging technologies for the cold chain. And you've got a great guest this week. Talk to us about who it is.
Yeah, so this week we actually get a 2-for-1, and we have a fan of the show, friend of the show, if you will. We have Travis Ross back from EROAD, and then he actually brings another EROADer from Down Under, and we have Konrad Stempniak joining us as well. And so we really kind of get into kind of the fun that is enhanced telematics and everything like that in the cold chain space. And while it's something that you don't necessarily think of right off the bat, it is something that does ultimately help keep your cold chain running. And given that there was just the huge Pharma event in Lyon, France, everyone is very focused on technology and kind of how to make your cold chain and your specifically pharmaceutical supply chain a little bit more efficient.
So it's no secret that we, of course, are here in the United States and we have a very American-centric view when we talk about a lot of these topics. So I love kind of the juxtaposition of bringing in somebody who is over the Australia and New Zealand department of EROAD, as you were mentioning. What are some of the differences when it comes to developing a cold chain network across North America and the United States versus in Australia? Australia is, of course, massive. It's the size of the United States, but it's really, really spread out. And you have a ton of country in the middle that is just absolutely desolate, underdeveloped, and takes a lot of work to kind of build out a robust cold chain network.
So I want to say and obviously I'm not intimately familiar with Australia's cold network. We just touched on it a little bit in the episode, but when it comes to kind of, developing that cold chain, for the most part, regardless of whatever country you're in, the same kind of needs are there. You still need to have something. You still need to have, reefer monitoring things. You need to have reliable drivers. You need to have reliable equipment, and you need to know kind of where things are at any given time. That is basically standard across whatever country you're in. However, some of the challenges that we face here in the U.S. because of our size, because for example, in England, you can go from one side of the country to the other in roughly 4 to 5 to 6 hours. And then just like in the US and Australia, you can drive for 6 hours and still be in the same state. So it's one of those where you definitely have some different challenges, and that margin of error is so much smaller for mistake. Because like you mentioned, the most of the middle of Australia is it is the outback, and it is it's desolate. There's not necessarily a lot there, and so it's kind of like driving through parts of rural United States where it might be 100 miles before you get to another exit or another gas station that you can safely pull off, take a break at, or something like that. So in a way, both countries kind of have similar problems to deal with when it comes to kind of planning for the worst case scenario.
But, instead of encountering just the random deer on the side of the road here, you got to worry about kangaroos in Australia. And I can't say that because I can speak from experience of dealing with wild kangaroos. They can get a little scary. Mary, we talk about emerging technologies in this episode. One of the questions that you ask is, if this tech is emerging and it's just brand new, how do people who are in use of it even know that they're in need of it, right? Or how do they start figuring out like, oh, these options are available for me, and maybe I could potentially use them if the tech itself is just brand new to the market?
Absolutely. So that's something that, we face no matter what industry you're in. How do I know if this new technology that comes out is right for me? Because as everyone's out there, like you said, posting on LinkedIn, got to get those sales calls in for the end of the month. that is something that, is incredibly important. But also as a shipper or as someone that would be using that technology, it really comes down to, okay, is this actually something that I need, or how do I know that it's right for me? And really it kind of boils down to, okay, you're ready to grow, or you just need more. Like you're 80% of the way there, but you feel like something's still missing from maybe your data analytics, your telematics, something like that. You just feel like something's missing, or you don't have the full piece of the puzzle. So really it kind of comes down to, okay, well, if I think something's missing and I think there's room for improvement here, or maybe my shippers are asking for some feature that we don't have, but I know it exists in the marketplace, that's when it really comes down to, reaching out to some of those people that promise to solve all of your problems, and basically making sure you're finding a partner that's invested in you as much as they're invested in themselves. So if you have someone in some of those early discovery calls, you'll figure out pretty quickly who is going to work best for you. And the most important thing is, making sure that that person's listening. Because yeah, they'll like listen and then jump in with like that script of, oh, we can save you 10% or cut down on this. And they have the kind of that pre-script of everything that they go through. But the biggest thing is, having someone that listens, say like, we are having this very specific challenge and this very specific issue. And they go, okay, well, here are some things that we have in place, or what some of our other customers have done to solve this very specific issue. And these are some solutions that we could have, or, we can work together to find one. And it's really important that you find someone that's not just trying to throw an out of the box solution at you. It's someone that's going to work with you, understands your goals, and knows that, okay, this is what we're going to work towards together.
The mutual investment, super important, not just in what are my future looking goals are, what are my future looking goals, but also what is my strategy to get there? And are we aligned on the same page by moving in baby steps versus giant leaps and bounds? And as we're getting through that process, what is your help process like? And all of the above. It's super, super important there. And finally, when we're talking about taking this emerging technology and looking at implementing it, okay, you've got it, it's in your house, it's starting to work. What is that feedback loop process like when you are talking to these emerging tech providers and they're still working on some of their products? You have to be that type of person who's willing to give that active feedback and make it a true loop to get the most out of your investment, right?
Absolutely. And that's something that that cannot be stated enough, is that when you have a true partner in a partnership, it's both ways. That communication works both ways. So whether it's, okay, what kind of developments do you want to see? What kind of things are important to you? Having that feedback loop of like, hey, this works really well, or hey, this doesn't. And, getting the everyday users, getting them involved in that process is going to make it a lot stronger of a program. It's going to make it a lot better for everyone else, because ultimately, as a technology provider, they are kind of the sum of everyone that they work with. So if everyone is providing strong, reliable feedback, then it will be the best product that the industry will need. It will solve all of the problems that everybody needs, thus, fulfilling its promise to solve all of your problems.
And then you become an emerging into a well-known and then eventually into a legacy provider until the next new kid on the block comes in and knocks you off the shelf. Mary, for the show coming up later on today, where can people find it and what time can they catch it?
Just keep watching FreightWaves right here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can catch all of our new episodes. But specifically, Running on Ice comes out today at 2 p.m. Eastern. And if that's not enough cold chain content for you today, then you can subscribe to Running on Ice, the newsletter, which will also be coming to your inbox at 2 o'clock. I recommend watching the show and then reading the newsletter with maybe your Friday afternoon cup of coffee. Or if you're in one of the cool brokerages, you maybe pop open your Friday beer while you watch it.
There you go. And make sure you subscribe to that newsletter as well, because we do get some discounts for the future of supply chain. Will be coming up here sooner rather than later. Mary, I'm stoked about it. Are you ready to be in Atlanta with everybody?
I am really excited because it's only one plane flight for me versus usually the two that happens when I go to F3. So I'm very excited. And if you hurry up and subscribe to Running on Ice, there's a little bit of a discount code in the newsletter if you're about that life. If you haven't quite decided yet and maybe the full price ticket's too much, don't worry, I got you.
All right, Mary, thank you for that. We'll catch you later on today. And of course, we will see you next week as well.
Thanks, guys.